Hello. It's 8 o'clock. In fact, it's 8:03 on Monday night, which means it must be Mindset Monday. I'm going to start calling it Maternity Mindset Monday because actually that's what it is. Monday, what an amazing weekend we had. It was absolutely fantastic. Hang on, I'm just going to close some of these things down because I think it's slowing down my connection. Oh, let's do that and that. And that, and that, and that, and even that, and it's just us. Brilliant. What an amazing weekend. How good was that weather? Just, God, it feels like the whole thing is, the whole year is properly starting. It feels like there's, for me anyway, like masses of positivity. Loads of vitamin D in the system, which is great. And I had, oh, look, I'm fringe obsessing again. Hey, Golly Gudgeon! So exciting to see you, lady. How are you? Really looking forward to seeing you on Thursday. I'm just waffling for 5 minutes, maybe 3, just to see if anyone hops on with us before I start rattling on. So yeah, amazing weekend. I had an amazing Friday. I dropped off my youngest to go to playgroup with one of her favourite people, one of her favourite friends on Friday morning. Hey, Natalie Stringer! Happy birthday! Oh my God, we're 2 decades apart, lady. That is not okay. I'm going to bring that with me on Wednesday morning. That's really freaky. Anyway, I had this lovely morning on Friday. Dropped Margot, the youngest, off at her playgroup, and I was walking back through Sevenoaks thinking, I'm going to do some planning stuff about what's coming up this month, really get myself focused and on point. And I bumped into 2 amazing mothers that I've known because you've got eldest kids who are about the same age, so who have gone to preschools and stuff together. And I sat down with them and we talked for an hour and a half about just all sorts of stuff about birth, babies. We've had 7 births between us, and they've all been quite different. We've had a section and a VBAC and home births and hospital births and 1 very, very premature birth. So I had a good spectrum of experience. We talked about loads of stuff. I just came away feeling just so energized and full of ideas and kind of fertile, mentally fertile. It was fantastic. And because it was such a lovely weekend, I cleaned out my office/shed. So now I'm sitting at the end of my garden in what looks like a Swedish sauna, and it doesn't look like a garage anymore, which is what it looked like on Saturday morning. So I've properly cleared it around and had a lovely sort out. So now I can sit in it. It feels like an actual proper working space, which is lovely. Anyway, tonight we are going to talk about, and I'm going to do little cast eyes over there every now and then because I've got some notes and I'd really intended to sit down and have a proper think through and a proper focus before I started this evening, but naturally the children were messing around and we had extra Harry Potter excerpts and then a baby trying to throw herself out of the cot. Not good. Anyway, tonight we are going to talk about, after my quick pop quiz amongst my friends, entirely unscientific, anecdotal data, the kind of 3 things that you can get really anxious about when you're pregnant and thinking ahead to labour and birth, and then 3 practical ways to deal with it and to overcome it. And because I'm amazing and I had some planning time this week, I'm going to put those into a little sheet of paper and we're going to be able to download them. So if you like what you hear and you don't have to take notes, you can just download it later on. I will pop the link up after tonight's live. So it can be a hectic time, pregnancy. You know, like loads of physical changes, loads of hormonal changes, adapting to your kind of new position in your relationship, giving up drinking, big one. So that's the first massive lifestyle change, all the food stuff that you can't drink and all that blah, blah. food stuff you can't drink, you know what I mean, food stuff you can't eat. You have to kind of manage your diet a little bit more. When you're at work, you're often starting to think ahead about wrapping up and handing over to, that is not a ghost outside, by the way, that is my laundry on the washing line. It's just caught my eye, sorry, bed sheets. So yeah, you're preparing for this whole new life stage and life phase. There's a lot to think about, and also you're kind of getting used to other people's expectation around you. When you're pregnant, there's a little bit of public property action going on, and you suddenly start to have to factor in how other people are treating you slightly differently as well. So it can be a bit of a hectic time, and because of that, it can cause it can be wonderful, can be brilliant, but it can cause a good amount of anxiety as well. And so I reckoned that it's probably worth just summarising what it is that can cause that anxiety, and then just a couple of techniques for let it go, and bring yourself into focus and confidence and ease so that you're kind of ready to rock and roll. First up, I could talk about this for hours, and this is as a result of a conversation that I had in the lovely sunny garden with a beer yesterday afternoon while the children were in the paddling pool with some friends of mine, and it's cultural perspectives on birth. So I've spoken about this many times before. My birth marathon analogy is one that I will keep boffing on until I die, probably. And it came up yesterday because the guy that we're with is preparing for his half marathon, which is coming up in the middle of next month, and he was talking about, I haven't quite done enough prep and training, but I'll be fine. I know I'll be fine, because he did the marathon a couple of years ago, and all of the stuff that went with that, and all of the kind of preparation and training that he did. So when he tells people that he's going to run a marathon, everyone's like, oh my god, that's amazing, how fantastic. And he goes off to the shop and he gets a new pair of trainers, and to get the new pair of trainers, they watch him on the treadmill to see what his pace is like and what his running is like and where he needs support. So that defines the pair of trainers that he's wearing. And he gets a special backpack and special diet and special drinks and special like protein gels to eat while he's running and all that kind of stuff. Then people start sponsoring him because it's an amazing thing to do, and it is an amazing thing to do. It's absolutely like amazing. I would not run a marathon. I would not run a marathon in a million years. But what I was saying yesterday was, just imagine what it's like if all of those athletes were standing at the starting line of the marathon in yesterday's London Marathon, kind of having been told that their bodies probably aren't going to work, and that, if your body doesn't work, like these are all the things that could potentially go wrong. And if your body doesn't work, then these are the interventions that we'll use, and these are the effects of the interventions. And sometimes these interventions can damage you, and they might damage your baby. And these are the things that you need to be mindful of, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it all just becomes massively overwhelming. And then all those all those athletes are standing on the starting line of the marathon going, oh God, suddenly not sure if I'm going to be able to do this. Sounds a bit worrying. I don't know if I can do it. How many of those athletes do you think will be able to do the full 26 and a half miles, I think it is, if they started off being told that they probably aren't going to be able to do it, and that lots of women don't? And they had all of these cultural stories around them of people who've had horrific marathons and how they suffered all the way through, and it was the worst pain they'd ever experienced, and it was totally horrendous. And ultimately, this is my thing about models of good birth. If you don't have a model of what a good birth looks like and how to create one, then what hope do you have of creating one for yourself? Because you don't know that you almost don't really know that it's an option. And add that, the fact that sometimes people talk about hypnobirthing as if we're mad tree-hugging hippies, and that what we're doing is a bit snake oily and it's not really based in fact and it's not really true. And you start to think, well, that's not a great starting point for anyone, is it? So let me just make sure I haven't missed anything out. So how do you deal with it? Great ways to deal with it, really straightforward. There is masses and masses of information out there about positive birth, and you can find it, and you can start to redress the balance. You can start to just level things out a little bit so that you're not thinking solely about all of the horrendous stuff that happened or that could potentially happen or that people have told you about. You're starting to find some good news so that you can seed that and provide some real balance for yourself. So my signposting for you on this one is threefold. My go-to book is called A Good Birth: Finding the Positive in Your Birth Experience, by an American doctor called Anne Dratkin-Liley. Now, at this point, I should be holding up the book going, it's an amazing book. It looks just like this. But I've lost my copy, and I've lost it for so long that actually I am actually going to have to buy myself a new one. But it's really good, so I'm going to put a link to it in the comments. That is a great book, because the whole premise of the book is it's not what happens physically, it's about how it's structured around you. So it's about having control, and a control means really understanding what your options are. It's about being surrounded by people who you trust, who you feel safe and secure with, safe enough and secure enough to be really vulnerable. And it's about having your voice heard. So it's a flipping great book because it helps you to understand exactly what that means. Look, I'm fringe obsessing again. Hi! I'm so excited about tomorrow. I can't tell you. Somebody's just joined who I'm going to see tomorrow, and I'm really, really excited. I can't wait. But thing two, enough about that, that's entirely personal. Thing two, so Anne Dratkin-Liley from the Good Birth Movement. The other thing is the positive birth movement. If you haven't heard of the positive birth movement, it's been around for about 4 years. It's run by a woman called Millie Hill. It's basically a loose, national and also international collaboration of women who have had positive birth experiences. So it's got a great website which has got great resources and great signposting, a great Facebook page which has got loads of stuff going on, and it's got a great Twitter feed as well, and they do local groups. So if you think in any way that you might like to prepare yourself for a good birth experience, go onto the Positive Birth Movement website, look up your local group and go and join. They're amazing. You'll find there lots of other pregnant women who are looking for the similar sorts of resources that you are, as well as people who've already had children, already had good birth experience, who can be there to support you. So it's all to the good. And my final resource on this one is Birth Without Fear. Again, it's a great website. It's kind of changed a little bit over the years. So what it used to be was people writing their birth stories, really honest and direct and straightforward. So kind of no holds barred, but not delivered in a scary way or a judgmental way, just delivered in a really honest description of individual women's experiences. It's really, really good. You can find them on Tinterweb if you type in Birth Without Fear. They've got a good Facebook page, but actually I think where they're really, really good these days, now my fringe is slightly too long, it's getting in my eyes, it's making me blind, where they've got really, really good these days is on Instagram. So they've got a great Instagram feed. And that's where social media is so good for women and birth, because when I was pregnant the first time 8-ish years ago, social media just did not hold all of these images of birth and really good birth stories. So actually it's been really, really good for that. Go and have a seek and a search and a find. Anxiety number 2. Fear of the unknown. Who is not fearful? Oh, yes, Equilibrium Birthing. Yeah, love their Instagram account. It's really, really good. It is really, really good. Really good show. Lots of likes and shares and stuff. So anxiety number 2, fear of the unknown. Like, we are all fearful of the unknown in pretty much every area of our lives, and birth is no different. Oh God, it's awful being able to see your own fringe when it's going mad like that. I might have to clip it up. So we're all fearful of the unknown. It's a scary thing. You know, if you don't know what's going to come next, then it can really throw you off your game. And, you know, there's that thing, isn't there, about like anticipation is always worse than the event itself. But the way to resolve that is to inform yourself, is to become really well versed with the thing that you're fearful of. And when I think about it, again, if I look back to when I was pregnant the first time and I start thinking about when was the last time I'd really thought about my reproductive body, It was probably when I was about 16 and doing GCSE biology, which, by the way, I was paying no attention to whatsoever. I was smoking fags behind the bike shed and generally misbehaving. And so I mean, frankly, it's a miracle that I got pregnant. I genuinely did not understand about my menstrual cycle, like when I ovulated and how that correlated with my period and what that meant in terms of getting pregnant. Oh, you know, but then why would I? Because we don't talk about our reproductive bodies like that at all. So there are masses of women. I reckon the vast majority of women, when they get pregnant, don't really understand how that has happened or what's going to happen in the following 40-ish weeks, and certainly not what's going to happen on the day. So I would say a really good way to get over the fear of the unknown and that anxiety that comes with what's it going to be like is to find yourself a really good antenatal class. Now, obviously, I'm going to say that hypnobirthing is the best type of antenatal class you could have. Of course I am. However, I think hypnobirthing is, because I think it covers, again, like I always quote Natalie Stringer because I hadn't heard it put like this until she popped up, but she says it brilliantly. It's like a full service antenatal course because it is. It covers the physiology, it covers the hormones, it covers how your baby is involved in the birthing process, as well as all of the practical aspects. So I would say hypnobirthing is a frigging great way to prepare yourself. And the other thing is that I think hypnobirthing teachers generally are really, really passionate about what they do. And increasingly, there are hypnobirthing teachers. I think a while ago, hypnobirthing had a bit of a reputation for having a bit of a judgment about what a good birth experience was, and increasingly I think hypnobirthing instructors are just much more open to, a good birth is what's right for you and your baby on the day. So go and find yourself a hypnobirthing teacher you have a really good rapport with. There are loads of us around, aren't there? Natalie Stringer and Carly Gudgeon, great hypnobirthing coaches in the area. So have a call round. Speak to a couple of people and find somebody that you have a really good rapport with, who you speak the same language as. Make sure that you've asked all the questions that you want to ask. Get comfortable with what's going on. Book yourself onto a course. It'll be the best money you've ever spent. I absolutely guarantee it. The next thing that you can do, which is very useful, is to find yourself some good reading material. I posted today about an amazing book called The Oxytocin Factor by, she's a Swedish woman, I can't ever pronounce her name properly, but I think it's Kerstin Uvnäs Mörberg. I'm sure there are some Danes amongst us who will, or Swedes amongst us, sorry, who will tell me how correct my pronunciation of that. But that is a really good book for explaining how the oxytocin works. And actually, it's not a book that's based around pregnancy. It's a book that's based around her scientific research into the hormone oxytocin. So it's really good to have that kind of really unbiased, rational, scientific insight, because having that can really help you understand how you can create an environment that will help your labour kind of progress as efficiently as and effectively and comfortably as you can manage. And the next thing I would say is to really understand how your body works and what the physiology of your body is. So have a look at Janet Velasquez and the Active Birth Centre. She has written a book called Active Birth, and the revised version is New Active Birth. I'm just going to tear up and say that a lot of the photographs in that book are a bit dated, but if you can get over that, the content of the book is amazing. It's really, really good at explaining how your pelvis operates, what's happening with your spine, where your baby sits within that, how you can use your body and gravity to its best effect while you're labouring. It's a top winner. And while I'm on that topic, get yourself a really good yoga instructor as well, or a Pilates class. Again, There are loads around here. I went to one about 2 weeks ago, run by the loveliest Elise Barnes. She's just really gorgeous. It's called EB Yoga. And again, I will put a link to her classes in the comments, and I'll put it on the download as well, so that you can get all of that at the end of this. I'm keeping an eye on the time because I'm trying to keep myself to like half an hour or under, and I'm, as is my natural state, banging on. So my last one is fear of change. Like, you know, it's kind of an obvious one, but it's one that we don't really talk about when we're talking about pregnant women and labour and birth. But, you know, pregnancy does lead to birth, but birth is just like this sliver. It's like this moment of transition, but then the rest of your life changes. It just does. Like, your perception of the world changes, your relationships change, like your relationships with your parents change, your relationships with your friends change, your relationships with your partner changes, and then the most important relationship of all is you suddenly have this new baby, and that relationship is possibly the most important one in your life, the one with the bond with your children, and it's certainly the most important relationship for your children. That's a massive responsibility to take on and a huge change to take. So I'm just going to turn over my page. Hang on a second, because I don't want to miss anything. And it is just the whole of your life. And when you look at that, there's this massive spectrum of experience. So there are some people who talk about mothering as, it's so amazing, I saw my baby the first time and I fell instantly in love, and they have this kind of incredibly powerful positive experience. But then the spectrum follows through to, there are lots of women who really don't have that great an experience with motherhood. There are lots of people who have postnatal depression and really struggle to adapt, and in the middle of that spectrum there's quite a lot going on. And actually, for a lot of women, it's a bit of a mix of the two. There are moments which are really wonderful and really amazing and unforeseen and joyous and joyful, and there are other moments that are really hard and really difficult to cope with. So, you know, when you're facing that massive change, it's really not a surprise that you bring some anxiety to it. You know, who wouldn't feel anxious in the face of that? And that's one of those mindset things that we sort of don't really talk about with pregnant women. And I think it's a bit of a shame, because I think you can release a lot of the anxiety if you understand what it is that you're feeling anxious about. So my top tip for that is, I was having a bit of a research this afternoon about like ways to release anxiety, and I found this great website. It was oh shit, I can't remember what it was called. I've just closed it. I'll have to dig it out. But there were 7 ways that it talked about to kind of overcome anxiety around big changes. And the 7 were to kind of imagine what the worst thing that could possibly happen and play that through, so that you're sort of really facing your fears. The second one was understanding what it is that you can control, which is basically an adaptation of, you know, learn to change the things that you can change, accept the things you can't accept, and just be sort of graceful and joyful in the middle. You know, which is kind of sensible. You know, if there are some bits that you can't control, and if you can't control it, don't rage against the machine, take a deep breath and let it fly over you. Accepting and reframing is really important. You know, sometimes just, I'm now talking through the stuff that I wasn't going to talk through because it kind of takes too long, but the reframing stuff is quite important. Celebrating the positives, another great one. Gratitude, so doing a daily gratitude list. Taking action where you can, so where you can be active and take action, things like going out every day, taking some exercise, meeting up with friends, you know, where you can control the situation, do. And then managing your stress with practical tools like breathing techniques and making yourself comfortable, and but treating yourself, give little moments of self-care. And then the last one was about seeking support. And seeking support's kind of the inspiration for this, because if there's ever been a time in your relationship where you need to be bonded with your partner, this is it. So this is a little technique for bonding together with your partner, and also helping to overcome some of that anxiety that comes when you're facing these big changes. So it's really simple. Get your partner on board, sort of engage him with what you're going to do. each of you write down 3 things that you're anxious about, or that is making you feel anxious and nervous about this pregnancy, labour, birth, parenting lark. Cross-check the lists, because it might be that you're anxious about the same thing. So you're either going to have 6 totally different things, or 5 or 4 or 3 once you dedupe them. And then put some time aside for the coming weeks. I don't know, go mad. Do it on a Monday, like a mindset Monday thing, just for you and your partner. And sit down and think about, each of you separately, think about how you might usefully overcome that thing about which you are fearful. So if it's, for example, something like sleep deprivation, you might write down, I might be really grumpy. If I'm really grumpy, please just be gentle with me. Tell me that I have to go to bed, because if you're like me, I'm not great at accepting help, and sometimes I need to be just literally told to do it. And then, or you know, there might be something else, like taking it in turns to do lie-ins, or extra time in bed or something, or sharing night feeds, or you know, whatever. And then once that opens up the opportunity to talk to each other about it, and to really start putting into place some practical plans, but also getting into the habit of talking about things that are a little bit difficult, because parenting is not straightforward, and you know, it can be really, really challenging. So getting into the habit of talking to each other in a calm way, where you've taken the emotion out of it, and you're not feeling attacked, and you're not feeling defensive, where you can just really have a straightforward conversation and find solutions to the problems that you're facing, is a great way to help you feel confident in those final stages, to help you feel like, you know what, whatever happens, I'm going to be okay, because I've got some coping strategies. And the last thing I kind of say is, actually, honestly, a bit of anxiety is a normal part of a normal pregnancy. So don't be too hard on yourself if you're feeling fearful and anxious. You can totally just sit with it. Just take a couple of breaths and know that a lot of women feel like this through their pregnancies, or in various parts of their pregnancies. So that kind of makes you pretty normal. So that's my evening. That's my evening about the 3 things that can cause anxiety in pregnancy, labour and birth, and a couple of practical things that you can do to allay those anxieties and those fears. So I hope it's been helpful. I hope it's been interesting. I have got courses coming up in June and July, and I've got space for private clients. That's the thing. So I've got, unexpectedly, space for 2 private clients. So if you want to come and book on, just drop me a message, let me know. I'm offering slightly reduced rates, obviously, because it's a bit unexpectedly quiet. So come and hop on, let me know. And I will load all of the stuff so that you can access it if you want it again, and I'll send links to the download. Hope you had a lovely evening, ladies. Look forward to speaking to you soon. Cheers, bye.